Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into our channel once again. My name is Dennis Morris, and I'm the minister for the Church of Christ in Jefferson, Texas. If you hear a noise in the background, it's our generator that's going. We had a storm come through last night and knocked down a bunch of trees, and also those trees knocked down power lines, and so we're without power and we have our generator running. But I want to take an opportunity to discuss some things there in John chapter 7 just for a little while today and continue with what we've been talking about. Remember, Jesus, of course, is having a conversation with the Jews of his day, and the Jews are now seeking to kill Jesus. And when Jesus brings this up to them, they said, "You have a devil. Who is seeking to kill you?" Well, later on in the conversation, there are those who admit that there are people who are seeking to kill Jesus, and yet there he is preaching and teaching in the temple. Do the rulers know that he is the Christ? And then, of course, they said, well, we know who he is. We know who Jesus is. And when the Messiah comes, we're not going to know from whence he comes. So they knew Jesus. They knew from whence he came. Not that he came from heaven, but they looked at him in the sense of him being brought up there in Nazareth. And so it's a lot like, well, we know who this person is. We know that he came out of Nazareth, and that he can't be the Messiah because we're not going to know from whence the Messiah comes. Well, the Old Testament did say that when the Messiah would be born, he would be born in Bethlehem. So that within itself proves the point that they would know, and that would be one of the things that would give them the evidence necessary to be able to determine that the Messiah was there. And Jesus, of course, was born in Bethlehem. They went down into Egypt for protection, and when they came up out of Egypt, they then went to Nazareth. And so that's the reason why he came from Nazareth. But undoubtedly they didn't realize that. Well, going on, we find as Jesus continues to have this conversation with them, notice what it says there in John chapter 7 and verse 28. Then cried Jesus in the temple as he taught. Now remember, he's in the temple and he's teaching. Now he's crying out unto these individuals. He said, "What? Ye both know me, and ye know whence I am. And I am not come of myself, but he that sent me is true, whom ye know not." Of course, Jesus said, "You do know that I came out of Nazareth, but I really am the one who came from God." The reason why is because God is the one who has sent him. And they did not know God. Well, what did that mean, they did not know God? Well, they knew of God. They knew of God's law. But if they really knew God and what God had said about his son and God sending his son, then they would recognize Jesus, that he indeed is the Son of God. In verse 29, "But I know him, for I am from him, and he hath sent me." So in other words, you may think I'm from Nazareth, but actually I am the one that has been sent by God. In other words, Jesus is saying that I am the Messiah. In verse 30, "And they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him, because his hour was not yet come." Now, they understood what Jesus was saying here. He was saying that I am from God. And you're people who should know God, and yet you don't. Because if you knew God, you would accept me as being the Messiah. And notice once again, now they're seeking to lay hands on Jesus. Well, why do you think that? Well, go back. Remember, there are those who are trying to get a hold of Jesus, trying to imprison him. Why? Because they want him dead. They want to kill him. And this, of course, shows yet the kind of attitude that some of these people had, because now they wanted to take him, and yet they were not able to do so. because his time had not yet come. His hour had not yet come. Jesus had more work to do and to continue to fulfill the will of the Father before he would finally be crucified. Notice it says in verse 31, it says, "And many of the people believed on him and said, When Christ cometh, will he do more miracles than these which this man hath done?" And of course, we realize that as far as the miracles that were done in the first century, Jesus and also his apostles and other inspired men in the New Testament, how that you see that those miracles were done to confirm the message that was preached. Remember in our conversation, our study about Nicodemus coming to Jesus by night, and Nicodemus saying there in John chapter 3 and verse 2, "Rabbi, we know that you're a teacher come from God, for no man can do these miracles or these signs that thou doest except God be with him." Well, now these people are saying, look at all the miracles he's doing. Do you think if Christ comes, or the Messiah comes, that he'll do more miracles than what Jesus has been doing? And so they're seeing these things and they're starting to say, what? Well, just look at all the miracles that he's doing. That's got to be proof of something. And so here you have them, thinking about, some even reasoning through what Jesus is saying and what he is doing. And some are starting to draw a proper conclusion, whereas others, of course, are arguing with him. So what we'll do, we're going to stop there and we'll pick up with verse 32. And there we'll find that the Pharisees, they join in and what they want to do with Jesus. But as we said, Jesus is still yet having problems persuading the Jews of his day as to his identity. While some are starting to draw the proper conclusions, others are fighting it. Well, we hope and trust that you have a wonderful day today, and Lord willing, we will continue our study tomorrow.